Welcome to Mystic Musings with Tobie Hewitt. I'm Tobie Hewitt, and I'm your guide through time and space and all points in between. Mystic Musings will give you insight into who you are, why you are here, how to live an authentic life, and where you fit into the universe around you. Join me on this path of mystical exploration. Welcome to episode 14 of Mystic Musings with Tobie Hewitt. This week, we will discuss psychic readings, what they are, how these are done, how to receive a reading, and what to expect as we continue our mystic journey. I went to college at SUNY Fredonia a long time ago, and the campus is very close to a spiritualist community known as Lilydale, and people who are mediums live there, and you can go there for readings. The very first reading that I ever had was in Lilydale, and a lovely elderly woman, Mrs. Deshard, they called her Madame Deshard, was the person who gave me my first reading. And she held a ring that I had had for a very long time, and through the psychometry, which is what that is, and through mediumship, she gave me a lot of messages. Now, at that point, it never dawned on me to record the reading or to even write down ideas that were being presented to me. She did give me some very, very verifiable facts as she was doing the reading, and she made a great many predictions for how the next 3 years were going to play out. And most, I would say all, but I would think it's all of her predictions did actually come true. Not all of them were very pleasant. And in fact, when I went to see her halfway through, she said, well, you don't have to continue going on this path. You can change it because, of course, we have free will. And I just looked at her. I said, I want to know how right you were. I want to know how this plays out. And so for 3 years, I found myself in a relationship that was not particularly good for me for the most part, but events happened on dates that she had predicted. And I just wanted to see how the process worked itself out. I finally extricated myself from the relationship. I have visited Lilydale many times over the years, and now there's a place called Inspiration Stump in a forest there, and I go as a guest sometimes and give readings. Anyway, that was my first experience with having a reading done for me. Shortly after that, and I may have mentioned this in another episode, where I was working, excuse me, I was asked by somebody to give them a reading, and I'm not even sure how this came to pass, and he gave me a ring with a ruby in it, and I held it, and the minute I touched it, I told him, I said, 3 people have had this ring before you. One passed from being hit by a train. One had a major coronary, and one drowned, and his eyes went big, and he said, oh my goodness, that's exactly what happened. Now, this person had been on a massive dose of Valium for a very long time, apparently. And I said to him, well, if you get rid of the ring, I was still very early on in my career as a medium and psychic, whatever, helping other people. I said, if you get rid of the ring, these symptoms will go away that are causing the need for Valium. So he did get rid of the ring. Now I know he could have cleansed it and released those energies. He got rid of the ring, and the next time I saw him, which was actually several months later, he was off the Valium and feeling fine. So we're going to talk about psychometry in the next episode, but right now I want to get into what it's like to have a reading and talk a little bit about what to expect. A reading is a connection to the spirit realm, to loved ones, to guides, to teachers. We get messages from them, from the other side, and we also get insight into the person, which we'll call the sitter. The sitter is the person who comes to the medium or psychic for the reading. We get insight into the sitter's path. So we're not only getting messages of love, and we're not only getting verifiable information about loved ones who have passed on, but we also get guidance. We give guidance. I guess sitters receive, and I give guidance as far as what their spirit guide or teacher or people on the other side want to share, or mostly from their spirit guide when it comes to that, trying to give information about their life path and how they can best live that life path on this side of the veil. There are different kinds of readings that are given. Some people use psychometry, which is holding an item that the person wears or has around them all the time. There's mediumship, when we definitely connect to people on the other side and try to give, as I say, verifiable information and messages of love and guidance. There's tarot cards. There's oracle cards, there's I Ching, there's lots of methods of divination that people can come to a reader, to a medium, and receive information about. The longer the reading, the more tools can come into play. In a 15-minute reading, for example, during a psychic fair, for example, I might, for example, give impressions, immediate impressions. I would use psychometry, definitely. Get impressions from the other side and use oracle cards to give guidance. I would try to get a message from somebody on the other side very quickly, but because it's, I'm set up for that kind of an experience, I have a lot of help coming in from the other side anyway. A 30 to 60-minute reading would be more likely an experience with mediumship and using oracle cards. To start a reading, I light a white candle, and I burn some incense. I cleanse the space, and I ask that all messages that I receive should be in and of the white light. And then I pause, and I sit very quietly, and I step aside very minutely. It's just this tiny little shift in my perception in order to hear messages. And sometimes I see people, well, most of the time I see people on the other side, but I want to hear what they have to say. I want to see what they're trying to describe to me, what they look like, so that I can see what they look like, and be able to tell the sitter who I'm talking to. For example, if I do not get a specific name, and sometimes I get very specific in that. Sometimes they just, I have to say, oh, well, this person looks like this, and this is what they did in their life, and this is an article, this is an item that they had in their life that perhaps you have on your bureau, for example. Sometimes if the person who has come to me, the sitter, has invited people, as I ask people all the time, please invite your people from the other side to join us, I can get messages almost immediately as soon as I shift my perception. And then sometimes it takes a little bit longer if I need to go searching for someone. Normally there's a guide on the other side who helps with gatekeeping, I guess that's the best way to say it, who sort of lines people up so that I'm not inundated by 10 people all at the same time talking. In addition, my guide Roger is always helping me through these readings, and so he also connects with the guides and the people on the other side. Let's see. The first things I do is I give immediate impressions, descriptions of the spirit, the details of the spirit's life on this side of the veil, messages from guides, and we will talk about all sorts of things, and the sitter will be able to ask questions. It's sort of, I always find it humorous because they say, could you tell the person I love them, or could you tell them how much I miss them? And I have to explain to them that spirit can hear them perfectly fine. They're the ones who are not able to hear spirit just because they're not tuned to do that. And they could become tuned to do that. They could practice and develop their psychic skills. But so it's an interesting give and take. There's conversation that goes on. I get the sitter to finally start talking to the people, and then the people on the other side start responding to me to give messages to the sitter. So it's interesting because it's like having a little, I don't know, we don't have tea, but it's like having a little tea party. And people always ask me, oh, is it scary? My favorite question is a seance a scary thing I see in the movie, how frightening it is? And I'm like, well, not particularly. When I have a seance, it's more like a big party. But anyway, back to readings. So we have, I use the oracle cards especially to focus in on aspects that either spirit introduced or the sitter has concerns about. And they're pretty accurate. When I'm on the air with in Rochester on the radio, I give what's called speed readings, and I have to use oracle cards because I'm only given a minute to read. So, and some of the cards that are pulled are so accurate before I even hear the person's voice. And so I know that the guidance is coming from the other side and a higher source. That's how it feels to me, that it's very different when it's under those circumstances. So the reading goes on for whatever time period the person has requested, and normally it goes over, though I never charge more. I've had readings go on for an hour and a half, and I only charge the hour that they signed up for, because I'm not in charge, Spirit is. Now, then I end the reading by thanking Spirit and snuffing out the candle. And normally Spirit moves me to give the sitter a hug from them. And it really does feel like it's not just me hugging this person. It's really this other spirit giving them a hug. Just to let you know, I do give readings in person, and I give them via Skype and over the phone and all sorts of electronic methods. I was afraid for a while that the electronics would interfere with the reception of information on the other side, but apparently it doesn't at all. It just comes as clearly as possible as during a reading in person. I have found that messages from loved ones are very welcome, but that additionally the guidance that Spirit provides helps the sitter feel more secure on their life path. I'm an intuitive consultant, and I have people who come multiple times for readings. Now, they've already said what they needed to say to their loved ones, and they're coming to get, maybe on a yearly basis or periodically as needed, they come to get information that is accessible from the realm of Spirit for their guidance on their path. They may come with a specific problem, and we work through it. So there's a lot of different aspects of giving a reading and giving an intuitive consultation. And it's serving Spirit. That's what I do. I serve Spirit on both sides of the veil, whether you are in body, incarnate, or not. And this provides me with a deep sense of joy and peace. Now, the exercise that I would like to share with you for this week, and I certainly hope you don't think I'm being self-serving, because I'm really not, because I would like you to have, if you've never had a reading, I recommend that you try to get one and experience what it is like. This is October. All of the topics that we're going to deal with in October deal with spiritual, dealing with the other plane. It is October the 31st. I have a big seance here in Rochester at Village Gate in Mythic Treasures. And it's because historically this is the time when the veil is thinning between us and the other side. So if you want, you can contact me through TobieHewitt.com, and you can set up an appointment for a reading either in person or via Skype or telephone or whatever. Or you could ask for recommendations in your area for a reputable reader. A reading is the best way to establish contact with the other side because it can provide verifiable evidence that you are receiving messages from the other plane. I've had such specific information that even I have been surprised. I'll tell you a couple. One was this father and daughter came to see me to talk to the man's wife on the other side and the woman's mother, and the reading went along and I gave them very specific information, and then the wife on the other side said, say the word yellow. I was like, what? And they said, just say the word yellow, they'll understand. So I looked at them and I said, well, this woman wants me to say yellow, and this man, who was not a small man, he and his chair jumped back 3 feet. And he said, and I said, can you tell me what's going on? And he said, last night we decided that that we would believe everything that you had said if you could hear her say the word yellow. Then we would know that everything was true. And so that was validation for me too, because it's kind of nice when I get tested and I can prove that Spirit is in charge and doing these kinds of, helping me with this work. And then there was this person who I said, I do this thing. If I don't get anything in a short period of time, we'll wrap it up and we'll end the reading. And she agreed. And I said, well, there's a man, Tim, and she started bursting into tears, and she said, well, that's the person I wanted to talk to. And I said, well, Tim is a hippie. And he's very cool, and he is he passed in, I think it was a motorcycle accident, or he drove a motorcycle. I don't remember all the details of readings I give. It's not my information. It's the sitter's information. And everything that I had said, down to somebody who had passed 2 weeks later, who also came, was verified. There's a lot of verifiable information that's to be had, and so that's what makes a reading really fun. For both sides. It makes a reading fun for me because I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, I'm getting it right. Spirit is helping and everything is good. So I recommend this week as an exercise, even if you can't have the reading this week, I recommend trying to get a reading because it will open up the fact of that there are multiple planes that we're dealing with, and that this is just one plane, the one that we're sitting on at this moment, and that we can hear from the other side. And if we can't do that ourselves, if we haven't developed our abilities, we can find there are people here who can help you experience that. So next week, please join me for episode 15, when we will look at the practice of psychometry, which will help you to develop your psychic abilities. This is one of the first things about psychic abilities that we'll be sharing. The practice of psychometry as we continue our mystic journey. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystic Musings. Please join me every week to continue our exploration of all things mystical that can help you have a more practical and magical life. Please visit my website, tobiehewitt.com, for more information and to read my blog postings. And join me also at pathwaystomindfulness.org to learn how you can schedule a presentation. I'm available for mindfulness training, demonstrations of psychic abilities, and individual readings. I also have a number of books on mystical topics on Amazon.com. I look forward to hearing from you and answering your questions. Please contact me through TobieHewitt.com.